this is the type of media coverage Palantir was getting in 2022, and this is why, it's very different from where it was back then.
Is one of the most evil people. Just look at it. Just look at this guy. Alex Karp is one of the most evil people. Just look at him. Just look at this guy. He looks like the devil.
I support American strength, but I do not think we should be outsourcing our CIA activities to a private company. Now, I don't want to go into it any more than that because they attacked me, and they attacked me viciously again after my last comment. Okay? But that's the way this world works. If you want to know some shit that you don't really want to know, so I can't talk about it. I literally just can't talk about it. It's just not worth putting my family at risk. So,
wow. So Palantir might say that, hey, they don't really, hold the data or sell the data. They're just servicing their clients, the government's own and collect the data, hypothetically.
Isn't that what the German soldiers said when they were burning people? that Hitler, they were just doing a job. They had no idea that they were burning humans. So, I think it is literally the worst company in the world. Like, ethically. They have certain moralities, like tracking everything Americans do and selling that to the highest bidder, even if they're enemies of America. Now, Palantir and the president of Palantir is basically the for-profit CIA. That's what Palantir is. So over the last 10 years, and it was kind of founded through the Mercer family and the whole misinformation campaigns that brought Trump into power. So Palantir's roots are in tracking all of our digital histories, making profiles. So they have a profile of every American. So they have your profile and everything you do, and they track everything you do digitally, and they do it through nefarious means. And then they take these things and they sell them to companies and governments and foreign spying institutions. And there are no ethical boundaries at Palantir who they will and won't sell information to. So to me, they make Facebook, which I hate, look like Boy Scouts. Russians only understand strength. They don't care about negotiations.
God doesn't know about security at Palantir.
Is put fucking CIA in there and put the Palantir people in and start fucking whacking them.
Okay, let me explain to you. They gather data on people and they sell it to third parties. How much can they grow when they only back supposedly U.S. allies? And I just don't understand the business. Companies buy data from them, and I don't know. I don't. Companies buy data from Palantir. Isn't that what they do? They gather online profiles on everybody. Palantir is
that's what Facebook is. It's not fucking
Palantir saving Ukraine right now, are they? What are they doing? So yeah, I can hire Palantir to do profiles on all my clients and stuff like that. I don't want to talk about Palantir. I have no interest in that business.
Let me give you an example. You live in Bulgaria, and the Bulgarian Secret Service hires Palantir to do an analysis of social media in their country. And what they want to do is they want to figure out who's reading the most articles that are against the Bulgarian government. So they get this third-party data. Oh, who exactly is going to keep the Bulgarian government? Now, if you know how they treat people in Bulgaria who don't follow what the government says, it's horrendous human rights abuses going on right now. Okay? Palantir would have no problem selling them this data. Where's the accountability? Who are cashing out on you, who don't give a about you at all, if you think they care about shareholders, you're smoking serious weed. Okay, but I can tell you the weed companies care about shareholders, and that is where I'm going to make 10x. They're full of crap. If a CIA guy tells you something and you just think that's true, you're listening to the fucking worst people in the world. You think that what they're telling you is true?
Yeah.
Okay. That is not the way the world works.
Yeah.
That's not the way the world works.
Yeah. Would you rather have a closed government, that does all this data, surveillance
do that
on their own versus, more of an open
Well,
system?
They all do that, and then they have Palantir to supplement all their data. But nobody's paying Palantir the big dollars that they're getting paid because the data is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So that's why they make the money.
Yeah.
Because they know more.
Well, Palantir also argue that it's not they're not bringing the data; they're bringing the analysis, the AI kind of analysis.
Right. These are the specific people you need to jail if you want to stop dissent. So they just give you the full analysis of where your problems are. Trust me, companies do this too, and they hire. I'm sure Facebook hires Palantir to go through all their Slack messages to see who the problem employees are. And then they pull up all the data on the problem employees and the demos, and they're like, oh, we won't hire people from Seattle anymore or whatever, the way it works, man.
Got it.
The world isn't so nice.
I mean, I think Palantir first, they don't go to, they're not servicing any country that's not aligned with, let's say, the U.S. or Western countries.
How do we know?
That this is part of their mission.
And so what he does is he spends his day figuring out how to track your TikTok so that he knows everything about you, and then he sells it to anybody. So it is the most un-ESG company you could own if you care about ethics or our society or the basic rot, the tech rot of the stealing of our data to sell not only to consumer companies, but foreign governments, many of which are enemies of our country.
There is not an opportunity for us to buy Palantir. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Hey, listen, I'm all for it. You want to own Palantir, that's fine. I hope you make money.
That was a nice little trip in memory lane. So that gives you a perspective of how the media coverage was back in 2022, and things have changed. Amir, what's your raw reaction to that?
I was part of tracking those clips, and there's a lot more. And I think people miss this because that specific part was sped up. But he actually said to Meet Kevin that after he spoke negatively about Palantir, that he and his family got threatened by Palantir. So he can't talk about it anymore. Like, did they send Chad over there to rough him up or something? Like, what?
Yeah. Did he pass early on, like 2006 Palantir? Like that? Yeah. And they didn't have the opportunity to invest. And so he's trying to burn it to the ground because, I don't know.
Could be. But in terms of Ross Gerber, just quickly, he used to do, like, some of those clips were from his monthly shareholder letter. So he launched his own ETF, like it's the ticker is GK. He used to do a monthly review of his holdings. And after 9 months of constant underperformance, it became bi-monthly. And then after a few months of that as well, he just stopped doing these monthly recaps of his holdings because all his holdings are down in the trash can. Anyway, as you mentioned, people have been tracking... for people who have been tracking the company for a long time, the shift in media narrative, it's like night and day. Even though I don't believe that Palantir is currently viewed in a particularly positive light as a darling of the market or something like that, I believe that it's being reported on neutrally now. And that's a huge step up compared to the constant hit pieces that we used to see just a year or two ago, and even worse prior to that. So yeah, I mean, it's like night and day.
I don't necessarily know if no offense to you, Amir, but literally something as simple as looking at the Peter Thiel discussion on Joe Rogan today. If you scroll it underneath and you look at the comments, it was massively attacking Palantir.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yeah, and maybe it's an opportunity to pull it up and actually look at it live here. I mean, it was very much like,
let's watch.
It was, yeah, I watched all. No, I only watched the first 20 minutes, but during the conversation, I was scrolling through the comment section, and a lot of it was like Palantir is a front for the CIA, and a lot of the same things that Gerber was talking about, right? How they're literally trying to destroy the West, and you had all these things. It's like these people don't know anything about Palantir. And kind of going back to the video, it was very funny. So appreciate you guys putting that together. I forgot about all those funny Gerber clips. But something as simple as going back to the security piece of data within Palantir, and I don't think that this is something gets told enough. And I've talked about this on the pod before, but and Chad, I'm sure will correct me if I misspeak here. But I remember a new engineer started at UDoc, and obviously we have a lot of profiles that people have, and people get access to profiles. But I can't randomly now. I have access to a lot of things. I work in a part of the business that gets, I do a cross region portfolio management. So it's a little bit different. But back when I was specifically Gulf of Mexico, all I could see was Gulf of Mexico data. I couldn't see stuff that was going on in Indonesia. I couldn't see stuff that was going on in the North Sea. So in order to be, moved to those, you need somebody to give you access to those particular pieces of data. Another thing, somebody joined the company, like, I don't understand why I need to make a profile. This is BS. Can't there be some sort of public profile that we could just hire that anybody can access? So we don't necessarily, and Palantir's like, that's the exact opposite reason of why you hired us, right? Like you hired us so that way you could secure the data and have access to the appropriate people, rather than just having a generic account that anybody can access and hack into and then steal your proprietary data, right? So
the literal opposite of what Gerber
exactly.
was.
I know that this person was going back and forth with this person from Palantir for 5 minutes, being like, "We're not creating a generic account. Like that's just against our policy. Like if you want, we can create you your own personal account and you can log into it and get verified through Microsoft and everything like that, 2-factor authentication, just like normal people when you log into your Palantir instance." And so it's pretty funny, the fact that he was talking pretty much basically what Facebook has been doing since 2008, which is selling people's data. But that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, I was no offense to you, Amir, but I was very surprised. I thought we were kind of turning the corner with respect to the hate upon Palantir as an organization. And to go back to your original thought that you had earlier, Amit, which is like, what do you want to see the media cover for Palantir in the next 5 years? This country has been so divided, meaning the United States, and to be very frank, also Europe and the United States relationship as well, has been so fractured over the past 20 years that I would just love an opportunity to gain some of that pride that we had within, the great work that we had done since the fall of the wall of globalization, right? And I feel like we're taking steps back over the past 3 to 4 years since this pandemic kind of occurred, of relationships really deteriorating, relationships between Russia and the US, between US and China, between even independently NATO countries. I think it's just continuing to deteriorate. So for me, maybe not necessarily what I think is going to happen, but I wish happens, is that Palantir gives an opportunity for us to reunite and gives us that group and say, hey, we should all be working together as one team, rather than trying to focus specifically on our own country's interests. Yes, your own country's interests are extremely important, but for the greater good of humanity, for the greater good of the world, we need to play together, and together we'll be able to succeed more, we'll be able to create more, we'll be able to have a much better cohesive world, rather than what I feel like we've been going over for the past 2 to 3 years, which is deglobalization of all these different countries.
Just to clarify, when I say that I feel that the media narrative is neutral, I haven't seen anything out of proportion in terms of Palantir, and what individuals comment on a YouTube video. I mean, that's always going to be skewed
I think
either way. But in terms of media narrative, I think it's pretty neutral now for Palantir compared to the past.
Yeah, because the Vice media articles were the ones that really went viral in 2017, and that was media. Now you've got, Palantir bullets, and you've got other stuff that shows up in the search results versus Vice media. Arnie, what was your take on revisiting memory lane with Ross?
Is a very fresh reminder that when I feel sad, when I feel I can't make it, then I need to remember that there are people giving money to this guy, and actually a lot of money. Like this guy manages, along with his partners, 2 billion. So if this guy, which has the capability, the analytical capability of a monkey, actually, I think can gather and manage to be
Pulling no punches today, Arnie.
Analytical capability of a monkey.
Of a Gerber.
I think Arnie is generous here, but yes.
Arnie, do you remember at the time when we saw those pop up? Like, what were your emotions when he originally said those comments?
When these articles were coming out.
No, when you saw Ross say that Palantir was Nazi Germany in January 2022, because it was New Year's Eve, the Dave Lee podcast came out. I remember all of us started watching it, and it was kind of crazy. And then Dave Lee took it down, but he didn't request me to take it down, so I was able to keep that part of it. But what did you feel during that time?
Well, I think him speaking that represented exactly what I wanted to see as an investor. When you have a lot of uninformed people with very strong opinions, wrong opinions, that is where you can bet very aggressively. That's something you also see firsthand with Robinhood. The situation was similar. Like all the press, all the comments, all the experts in fintech or whatever were like, oh, this company is not really that interesting. And then boom, but when you can actually assess that all that noise is actually not only noise, but is also bullshit. That is where you have the opportunity to strike as an investor, because then, as usual, when the reality emerges, then the stock rises, and when the stock rises, then the narrative changes. So imagine how stupid would look like now an article writing on, oh, but Palantir and the SPACs. It's like, are you really pointing to that? Remember De Palma? Like, De Palma now looks like an idiot pointing at SPACs, which are like 1-2% of the revenues, as an issue for for the company. So now the stock is strong, the business is exceptionally strong. Also, the narrative on the stock can change, and that can also help understanding what's going on behind the company. So I would not be surprised if now that there is obviously high interest in terms of business, there is high interest in terms of the stock, like both the stock, the business, there would be more media coverage trying to understand, okay, how the hell Palantir went from being a meme stock, a trash, unprofitable SaaS, to whoa, wait a second, this could be a generational opportunity. So I think now everybody would be interested in to know more. And for instance, also the fact that I was asked to write a guest article into one of the leading SaaS newsletter, for me is a sign, oh, there are people that are realizing that we are not just a bunch of degenerates. These degenerates were actually right into their sector, by the way. Like none of us is a SaaS expert, but we got the intuition right, which to me is even more valuable.
Agreed. Vince, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Arnie. It's just really funny that when we were buying Palantir in the 60s and the 80s, like that was the majority. That's what the majority of people were thinking. And yes, there is still a lot of haters, but it's amazing to look back at this. And we were like the idiots for thinking that Palantir was a real company, and it was a good company, and it was actually like a net positive for society, and they're going to, make everybody more productive. And yeah.
So my experience with this was really interesting, right? So this comes out in 2021, I think on New Year's Eve, like right before 2022. And I'm watching it, and I remember hearing him say, Palantir is equivalent to Nazi Germany. And I hear that, and I'm like, whenever someone does a Nazi Germany sort of equivocation, it's always a very dicey, territory to be in. And so when he just said it so blatantly like that, I was like, oh, this guy is kind of fucking insane. Like, for him to make that publicly as a fund manager, manages $2 billion, like, just to be so like adamant, as Arnie said, so confident about saying that it's equivalent to Nazis. I felt the same way as Arnie. I was like, okay, so this is like peak madness now in terms of the interpretation of the company, which means the alpha is where all the opportunity is in the misinformation of how people think of this company. And then I also realized, if this is the guy who has a majority of influence, I mean, I don't think Arnie and I were as influential as Gerber at the time. I think it was really important for people like us, independent content creators, to fight back against that. And I think that was important, because when we posted those videos of saying, hey, here's why this interpretation of Palantir is really stupid, or hey, they don't even sell your data, like that's Facebook, Amazon, and Google, that's not Palantir, like just blatant lies around it. I think that helped people who were buying it at $6 and $8 be like, oh, that guy's just stupid. Like, even though he sounds smart and he has billions of dollars, he is stupid. I think, and my prediction is, in the next 5 years, there will not be 1 week that goes by without Bloomberg, CNBC, Yahoo Finance, and Wall Street Journal not mentioning Palantir. Just like now, every week they mention Tesla, pretty much every other day they mention Tesla. I think Palantir will be looked at in a positive light, because AI will become real. Palantir will be the core AI SaaS play. NATO and defense spending will become more important. Palantir will play a bigger role there. And I think that means for shareholders, that's really important. People actually care about this company. They're going to care more about the company over the next 5 years as the media keeps covering them. And I think that will have an effect on the stock price and influence new people to get interested about Palantir. It just might take the next 5 years for that to fully play out.